that division. You got Scott Quinn, Carl Frampton, Guillermo Rigondeaux.
I'm gonna get the opportunity, boy. You working your ass off, don't you?
Hey, that's what we do. That's what we do.
Untitled.Nation. I see it, baby. Y'all the man.
That's what it is.
I love what you're doing for boxing.
Thank you, man.
Don't stop. Keep on going strong. Keep on going hard. A lot of big fights coming this year. A lot of big fights.
Hi, you're watching Dontaesboxingnation. Woo!
2012 with a first-round knockout, and here at Barclays in the biggest fight of his career, he scores another first-round KO. Back to you, BC.
All right, Mo, and I think a lot of people are saying, wow. As Daniel Jacobs said, what a career and life-defining win for him. For Daniel Jacobs, I know Gennady Golovkin is generally thought of the tip-top of this division, but if you're Daniel Jacobs, you can now say and have a legitimate beef and say, I've now beaten and stopped a better fighter than you have beaten when you look at your entire resume. It's a big win here for Daniel Jacobs.
An argument can be made that with a victory over a former champion in Peter Quillen, that maybe he has a better resume now than the boogeyman in the division, Gennady Golovkin, who has 21 consecutive knockouts but hasn't faced anybody like a Peter Quillen in his credentials. I think this is going to open up plenty of opportunities for Daniel Jacobs moving ahead in a division that has a lot of curiosity now.
Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? First things first, I gotta hand it to Al Haymon again. Man, oh man. Al Haymon and Mayweather Promotions, because according to Floyd Mayweather, he said they're all under the same umbrella. He said Al Haymon is TMT and TMT is PBC, etc., etc., etc. So with me saying that, I gotta really hand it to Al Haymon and Floyd Mayweather, because they are bringing boxing back to the mainstream. They're bringing big fights back to Brooklyn, New York, the Barclays Center. Not only are they bringing boxing back to the mainstream, but they are also bringing American stars back to the mainstream. This was a type of performance from Danny Jacobs that shines a light on the middleweight division, and not just a light on one guy who's not even American. We're talking about this was an opportunity for boxing to shine light on an American champion as well. Okay? Now, of course, we know Danny Jacobs ain't gonna get treated like Gennady Golovkin gets treated, even though Danny Jacobs' win was far more significant and far more impressive than Golovkin's over David Lemieux. Let's go ahead and talk about this actual fight. I didn't have time to do a breakdown on this fight because I got extremely busy. But I talked to my man Ego hours before the fight, and he can confirm. I told him that I'm picking Danny Jacobs to win this fight. I'm picking the guy with the one loss on his record. We went back and forth talking about how this fight just goes to show you how much of a 50-50 fight that this is. I always thought that Danny Jacobs will win this fight because of the simple fact that Peter Quillen is a power puncher, but he fights in spurts. And sometimes he fights very passively. When he fought against Gabriel Rosado, I was surprised. I was really surprised because I thought going into that fight, Peter was going to blow Gabriel Rosado away. And what we got was a Peter Quillen that really looked gun shy. A guy who didn't really feel comfortable letting his hands go. When I seen that in other fights, even the Andy Lee fight was another perfect example. I said to myself, when it comes to Danny Jacobs is more persistent in the ring. You know, he's all over you, and he has power. He has a boxing pedigree, an amateur boxing pedigree, very good one, by the way. So I felt that he was the more complete fighter. I felt a lot of people thought going into this fight, because Danny Jacobs had that one loss on his record, that's what a lot of people were mainly focusing on. But sometimes you can't just look at the numbers. You got to look at the talent and the skill and the flaws of both fighters. So with that being said, let's talk about this fight. It wasn't that long of a fight, I should probably say. Obviously, the fight was over in the first round. You guys all know by now. Let's first talk about the stoppage. You know, when I first seen the stoppage, the first thing I said was, oh man, that was a bad stoppage. That was a real bad stoppage. But then, when I watched the replay, and I seen Peter Quillen's eyes, and he looked like he didn't know where he was, and even when Harvey Dock was actually stopping the fight, the referee that is, Peter still didn't know where he was. So that pretty much justified the stoppage. Now, personally, I know a lot of us are probably a little selfish because I wouldn't have minded the fight going a little longer so we can, get just more of a validation when it comes to a knockout. But overall, it was a good stoppage because Peter Quillen, he looked like he didn't know where he was. Okay? So this was a very impressive win. Like I said before, if you compare what Danny Jacobs just did to Peter Quillen compared to what Golovkin did to David Lemieux, I think we can all agree that this was a far more impressive win for Danny Jacobs than Gennady Golovkin. I think this makes that fight just that much bigger. I would love to see Danny Jacobs versus Gennady Golovkin next. I think that's a very competitive fight. Even if I lean towards Golovkin, which I don't know who I would lean to right now, because I'll tell you, before this fight, I thought Golovkin would beat both Quillen and Jacobs. And you guys have heard me say this on numerous videos. But after that kind of performance, I think it makes the fight much more competitive. These are the type of performances that these fans and decafs claim they like to see, right? These are the type of performances that make these decafs say, oh, that's why I like Golovkin. That's why I like this fighter or that fighter. So let's see if they're going to start treating Danny Jacobs like they treat Gennady Golovkin. Now, we know good and damn well that ain't going to happen, but it's good to put it out there so you guys see the double standards that exist in the sport of boxing, which I will continue to expose, by the way. So this was a very impressive performance by Danny Jacobs. He hurt him with the right hand in the first round, and Peter Quillen couldn't recover. He jumped all over him. Danny Jacobs, I was really impressed. A lot of people didn't give Danny Jacobs enough credit when he fought against Sergio Mora. What he did to Sergio Mora blew me away because Sergio Mora is so evasive. He's so slippery. He's so hard to connect on. And for Danny Jacobs to just run in there basically and knock him down, hurt him multiple times within the first round, which is exactly what he just did to Peter Quillen. So because I seen that, I was really impressed. And he continued right where he left off from the Sergio Mora fight. I'm very impressed with Danny Jacobs' performance. And he didn't let off the gas like Andy Lee did. When Andy Lee knocked down Peter Quillen, Andy Lee, he didn't jump on Peter Quillen the way Danny Jacobs did. Danny Jacobs jumped all over him. He was not going to let his ass off the hook. We've seen so many fighters before where they hurt a guy and they say, okay, well, I'll try back later on because this guy, he's not all the way gone yet, right? Not Danny Jacobs. Not Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs, he knocked out an undefeated fighter who had never been knocked out before and was the favorite to win this fight. So I would say that is the biggest middleweight win of the year. And that's the best middleweight performance of the year because it was so significant. The fight itself was impressive, or the win, I should say, was impressive, and the results was impressive. So it's a win-win for Danny Jacobs. I really hope that they can make Golovkin versus Danny Jacobs next. I think that is a great fight. Once again, I love what Al Heyman is doing. This fight, I almost had goosebumps right before the bell rang because it was just this Brooklyn brawl, right? And you had everybody fighting for the rights to to being the king of Brooklyn. And it was a big fight. You had two guys who were knockout artists. They were both young. They were both in their prime. It was a 50-50 fight, right? It wasn't some 10-1 type odds fight. So with all of those elements, it made for a great fight. And I can't wait to see what's next for Danny Jacobs. I can't wait to see what's next for Al Haymon, what he's putting together. What he is doing is truly historical, guys. You could sit over here and talk about how much I can't stand these damn coincidental people like Al Haymon and all of that. But guess what? If he keeps winning, then that means you guys are losing. Because you guys want him to fail. The more you want him to fail, guess what? The more the man keeps winning. Boy, that's really got to be frustrating. For you to pray for someone's demise so bad, and every time you look up, they keep winning. Oh man, I feel your pain. I really feel your pain. Well, guys, that's pretty much all I got for now, and I'll be talking a lot more about this whole Danny Jacobs, Peter Quillen situation, this whole Al Haymon train that keeps moving forward. But that's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.